Welcome to the Selectmen meeting. Call to order. We're all here. Okay, we're going to have an election of chair, vice chair, and parliamentarian. Need a motion for chair?
I move. I'd like to nominate Teresa Sadak as chair.
Second.
God forgive me.
Why would you do that again a second term?
I'll move to close.
Seriously? Really? Okay. All right. All right, so if we close, there's no more nominations then.
Well, there will not for chair.
Okay. All right, so second to close, or it's already closed. Any questions? All in favor? All right, can I have a motion for a vice chair?
Make a motion to nominate Raoul Folson as vice chair.
Second.
All in favor? Can I have a motion for parliamentarian?
Second.
All in favor?
That takes care of that.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of May
Throw you
15th?
right to the wolves.
Move the minutes from May 15th?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Minus
Abstain.
Marshall.
Abstain.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Scott, did you find that wording?
Well, just the criteria for the moratorium is the only thing that I can find.
Okay, we can get that.
Okay.
All right. So the first thing on new business is discussion and consideration of proposed moratorium. This is moratoria on manufactured housing located within the shoreline zone pursuant to 30 MRSA section 4356. I'm bringing it to the board because I've had a group of people come talk to me regarding concerns they have regarding manufactured housing, and there's different terminology for this, and what we're finding is in residential, this manufacturing is not allowed, but in shoreland, it is allowed. So in shoreland is usually more restrictive. So we have a group of people here tonight. I call them the Canal Street people. And Scott is our code enforcement officer. So because we have our videographer in the back, we're gonna need you guys to go up front. And Scott, I'm gonna have you probably just come sit up at the table so you have a microphone. So I'm gonna turn it over to, who wants to be the spokesperson?
Can I pass something out real quick?
Yeah.
And I don't have enough copies, but I do think this will help in the discussion.
We can share.
Not the best color.
The best color. We can share it with you.
But I think in terms of discussion, that will help. So my name is Jennifer Finney. I'm 4 Canal Road, Raymond. And recently we had a permit issued in our neighborhood for a manufactured home, or otherwise known as a mobile home. And we all had serious concerns about the use in our neighborhood. In June of 2014 at a town meeting, the zoning for our neighborhood was changed from village residential that did not allow and still does not allow mobile homes to the LRR1 zone that I'll get to in a second. And so when we found out that the zoning had changed and the permit was issued, we all questioned Scott on the use because it was all of our assumption in the neighborhood that manufactured homes were not allowed. Scott, in his interpretation of the shoreland zone, interpreted, if you look in the shoreline zoning ordinance under the LRR1. It's very vague. And when he went to do some digging, there is a land use chart in the shoreline zone ordinance that shows the allowed uses and who has authority to issue those permits. And Scott interpreted in that land use that a residential dwelling unit as defined in the shoreline zoning is considered a single-family residential home, and therefore he believed that it was allowed. And so a permit was issued, and Scott, correct me if I misinterpreted that.
Well, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
And so, as a result, when we all started looking at what the potential ramifications could be to the town as a whole, in the LRR1 and the LRR2, and if you look on that map, the only zones that I'm aware of that do not allow mobile homes are currently the village residential, the resource protection, and the stream protection. Every other zone in town allows manufactured homes and mobile homes. So if you look at the map, what looks sort of whitish on the map is all the LRR1 zone. So according to this interpretation by Scott, you could put a manufactured/mobile home on those lots. As well as all of Raymond Cape, you could do the same. And so our concerns are that this one issuance could become a bigger problem, and I'm pretty confident that the people that live down on Raymond Cape in their several $1,000 homes would not appreciate a mobile home being put on the lot. And so because I think of the vagueness of the shoreline zoning, it's not clearly defined. When I went back to minutes of the planning board where they discussed changing the village residential use to the LRR1, it was because the DEP classified Panther Run as a river versus a stream. And so they didn't even discuss the use. They just said, yeah, it should go to LR1. Of course, the minutes obviously are an abbreviation, not a direct quote, but there was nothing discussed in terms of what the ramification of changing that and what the use to that area would be. And I don't know if all of you are familiar with Canal Road, but it is next to Main Street and Village Residential. So we bring this to you in hopes that you would put a moratorium on further mobile home manufactured homes in those zones until further clarification, and perhaps an ordinance amendment could be made to not allow those in those areas where there should be more restrictive. And anybody else, feel free to.
I have a rather general question.
Sure.
You talk about mobile homes, and then you talk about manufactured homes. There are some very good quality manufactured homes.
I don't know, Scott.
Not on wheels.
Not on wheels, no, well, you should make that distinction.
There is two different.
Well, and that's why
Manufactured homes are considered homes built after 1976, 14 inches or wider. Anything, they're considered manufactured homes or newer mobile homes.
As opposed to modular homes.
Modulars,
which
they have
comes in
modulars
pieces.
which comes in pieces.
These comes in and
Yep.
this is
Yeah.
Mobile
one
homes
unit.
have an axle, they have to be removed on the permanent foundation. Axles and the tongues removed. There are some standards for individual mobile homes as far as how they're supposed to be installed on the property itself.
when we were talking about the wording, how to put this on the agenda, I was corrected because I didn't realize there is definitely different wording for each one. The modular, the manufactured,
Yeah.
they are definitely different ones, is what it is. Scott, you want to add
Well,
something?
yeah, manufactured is the ones that we're talking about here. Is the manufacturing is they're listed them as two types. Type 1 is the newer mobile homes that we just discussed, and then type 2 is the modular. They're both considered manufactured housing, but there's two different types listed underneath that.
In the land use ordinance, it does specify them separately. They're defined separately on the land use side. The land use side of the ordinance does a very good job of articulating what's allowed and not allowed. When you switch over to your shoreline zone ordinance, it's not clear. There's a lot of room for interpretation, and we feel in this case that was obviously a very generous interpretation of the ordinance and should go back for further clarification before it could obviously have further impacts
Thank you.
to the town.
Well, and
What's
yet,
the, what's the state regulation on shoreland zoning?
As far as what we're talking about today, I talked to Mike Morris from DEP. There's nothing in their regulations prohibiting manufactured homes
Okay.
under the state guidelines.
what catches me off guard is it's so restrictive what's on the shore, the shoreland. You know, it'd be like somebody coming up beside you where you are on the Cheney River and plopping, I think a house manufactured home right there is what it is. But I'm surprised, and I know Greg Foster, you were in in Don's office when we questioned this. Greg kind of questioned it too a little bit, like, well, why, that is kind of weird that it is not more restrictive because of it being shoreland.
Yep, and I mean, and to their credit too, there are what they call, which we couldn't, I mean, I chased down some of the older shoreland zoning in the ordinance itself. It doesn't prohibit it, but there also were things that were put on the town website. There are excerpts from district regulations, and they specifically go down there and it says not allowed, but yet it's not in the ordinance. It also said that back in 2009 as well, the same, but there was no verbiage in the ordinance that prohibited it. It was only that, basically a cheat sheet of what's allowed and not allowed.
So we kind of have mixed messages as to where it's at.
Yep.
So what I'm asking tonight then is, can we put a moratorium on this, send it back to the planning board to investigate this, to see what's best for what Raymond wants, and then give
That
it some
makes sense.
give it some time to investigate more on this, is what it is.
Absolutely,
Yes, I think that's
absolutely.
a good idea.
I think there should be many parts of the town that doesn't allow mobile. Manufactured is a total different story.
It is.
Right.
Well, yeah, so I mean, that's definitely needs to be defined better.
So,
Is the landowner or the builder here tonight to represent the opposing side?
No.
Okay.
No.
but what's the actual charge then to the planning board?
Right.
Because, it's one thing to say, go look at it,
All right.
but
What do we want them to do?
what's the intent of them looking at it? I mean, they could look at it and say, okay, yep, looks good to me. Or they could look at it and say, okay, this needs to be reworked. Do we, is there,
I think it needs to be defined.
is there a definition that says, we want you to look at it in regards to, to whatever.
To me, I want it looked at to say, what does Raymond want? What does the planning board suggest that Raymond should do for that? Like Lonnie was
In
just
that
saying,
zone.
in that zone, and maybe have its own zone. I mean, looking at this paper here, there's a lot, and I'm really surprised at like what you said, village residential. What exactly is that? What are those areas of village residential? Is that would be like where I'm at on 85?
It shows on the map.
And that would be the light yellow, right?
Correct.
Yep.
So that's a lot of the housing areas, and it's not allowed in those areas then, is what you're saying?
Village
Yep.
residential.
And that's, when these lots were split, they were under that village residential. And then, like I said, the error was found either by the state, I'm not sure exactly the timeline on it, but the state said that Panther River is a river, not a stream. So therefore, that pushed that back into shoreland zoning at that time.
Is there really a difference? I mean, as far as like when you're doing shoreline, apparently there is, the state changed it then.
What do you mean as far as?
River and a stream?
Yeah.
Does it have to be like so wide, so much running
Well,
water?
does it contribute? Yeah, there's other criteria that it has
Okay.
to meet. Does it contribute to a larger body of water and the size of it? And yeah.
Okay. I guess I'd like to have the planning board come back and kind of give us, if it's not allowed in residential, I really am shocked that it's allowed in shoreland, to be honest. So I would, me personally would say, okay, we need a new plan where it can go. Does that make sense? Would that be their job, in their job description?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
we want, you want them to look, we're asking them to look at it in regards to the placement of where is it appropriate to have, in what zones is it appropriate to have mobile homes.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then are we looking at rezoning an area?
When did
Or
they
do we-
change that, by the way? I'm sorry.
Which one?
Village residential to shoreland.
June of 2014 at town meeting.
So 4 years ago they did. Okay, so
It
that's
is
pretty-
allowed, individual homes are allowed on some zones, I believe they're allowed in rural. I'm not sure on some of the other ones, I believe they're allowed there still. Manufactured homes are.
Part of the other thing, if I can point out too, in the LRR1 zone specifically, in the planning board minutes, there was discussion, and I can't find anywhere where the LRR1 boundaries are defined, but there was a comment by a planning board member at the time wondering why the LRR1 zone went back 600 feet, where shoreline zone's 250 feet. And so that may also, if they were to look at that criteria, that may also be defined, because I think that's affecting, like, a lot of Raymond Cape. I don't know what that boundary is, but at the planning board at the time, Chris Hansen mentioned in the minutes that that was the town standard, and therefore that would be the width that was applied to that zone that was changed.
So if we have the planning board technically watch this meeting and check into the concerns that are being raised here tonight with the footage being put back, I guess I'd want from you, where are they allowed in the town that the planning board can
Have a
know where
starting
they're
point.
allowed? Sorry.
Right, have a starting point of,
Exactly. And I guess I'm kind of thinking too, is if they're allowed in certain areas. I guess I'm just really shocked about the whole shoreland. I was in your office and you got a phone call about grass cuttings or leaves going into the water. So when they're that particular, you know about things too. What do you guys want to?
A couple other questions. The length of the moratorium that we can authorize right now is what? 90 days, 180 days?
I think he
What?
said 180.
Yep. can be
Which
enacted.
then could be extended if it needs to be. Because if we're looking at this from a practical standpoint, if we're looking at an ordinance change, that can't be approved that quickly anyway.
If I can, from the email from Phil Saucier, town attorney, one of the town attorneys,
180.
yeah, he said that the initially town legislature body for up to 180-day period, and then can extend by the selectmen for an additional 180-day period after that.
So we can extend it. Right now I'm looking at it twice.
So I would guess what we would want to do then would be to, if we approve the moratorium, say that we want some information back from the planning board within 100 days. That gives them, if they need more time, than that, they can come back and say, then we can go to an extension. But at least that gives us a marker there that says, here's a timeline. We want them to look at that, and then if we need to go beyond that, we can address that. But then we'd have to look at what do we, if there's ordinance changes, what timing do we need to get those? Now, I also understand that wording can be in the moratorium to make any decision that's made retroactive back to the date the moratorium was put in place. So in effect, no new things would be able to be approved once you start the moratorium. Is that correct?
One question on timing. If we do a change and we do take it to a town meeting, would that be on the November? No, that wouldn't be on the November. That'd be on the Junes.
June's unless you want to call a special town meeting to pass
Okay.
the ordinance.
Okay. So we're not worried about a timeline on that then. Did you want to say something, Don? No.
No, we can't.
I do.
Okay, Marcia.
I mean, I could, but I think we've covered it.
All right.
Isn't the question here what's allowed in this zone, and not whether we want mobile homes in there or not? I think I'd like to see that whole zone defined clearly, and I think that's what you're asking for too. What exactly can go in that zone?
Okay.
Not whether can we put a mobile home in there or not.
Well, because I'm also wondering why they're not allowed in village residential.
Well,
Why
yeah,
was it
they're
switched? But
allowed
those two
over in,
areas right there.
North Raymond Road, I don't know.
Right.
Where are they allowed? But I think the point at on hand is what's in that LLR1,
Okay.
LLR2 zone.
I'm good
I
with
think
that.
that's the charge to the planning
Well, I think
board.
village residential, when that was defined too, it was already built out, so
Right.
it was defined because it was already there.
Okay.
These are still.
Ralph, you have been on these boards way too long.
Well, I guess one of the
He's
things that may have to
acknowledged.
be changed would be the definition the definition in shoreline zoning specifically states that mobile homes
Use.
are considered single-family residential. That's, and basically it just says that single-family residential homes are allowed in shoreline zoning. So you'd probably have to change, I don't know if you'd have to change the definition or not, but
The wording, because that falls under that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be part of the task, is to look at that overall wording and clean that, clean it up as appropriate and make any modifications that need to be made. Because then ultimately, if you're talking, you're ultimately talking about an ordinance changes at some level, which means you have to go to public hearing anyway.
All right, so we're gonna give them 100 days to come back to us.
Or to come back and request, but
Yeah.
come back with something.
Something.
Yep.
Madam Chair, may I read back what I've tried to capture out of everybody?
The motion would be,
Motion to approve the moratorium and ask the planning board to look at the definition of what is allowed in the shoreline zone and in the LRR1 zone, to be sure that manufactured housing is allowed / prohibited as appropriate, and report back to the select board within 100 days.
I think what needs to be added in there is the wording of single-family dwelling too, because that's what's kind of conflicting right now too.
Do you need the length of the moratorium? I would suggest 180 days.
Right.
Yep.
That's not in there.
No, we need that in there too, the 180 days, if that's what the board chooses. And we
And any
would have the wording.
any decisions made retroactive back to the date of the moratorium.
So in other words, we're going to vote on the moratorium tonight. We just don't have the language from the attorney.
But that way, if that essentially stops any permitting from taking place from this point forward, if an ordinance is changed, then that, just says that he can't accept any permits until it's resolved.
You have the criteria there, correct?
yes.
Is that going to help us at all?
Keep my glasses.
Do you want me to hold it over here?
Because to me, the establishment of the moratorium should be sufficient from a language standpoint, Scott, as long as it's consistent with the criteria under law.
Yeah,
However, I'm always open to being wrong. So I'm not sure we need actual language on the motion from the
I
attorney.
don't think so.
no, it just,
Just voting on the moratorium.
Correct, that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you have down on the motion there, Sue?
I missed a few of the pieces that Rolf said, I believe. Motion to approve the moratorium for 180 days with any decisions to be retroactive to
The date of the
the
moratorium.
date of the moratorium.
We can't go back any further than the motion that we've.
Right,
And no permits may be obtained until resolved.
right. Well, I mean, that's what the moratorium's in effect, and a permit can't be issued, but what it does further say is that any action ultimately taken becomes retroactive back to that date.
So, and this is probably a question that's from a naive point of view, but if no permits can be obtained in the shoreland zone and in the LRR1 zone, doesn't that put a bit of a crimp in people's,
It does.
yeah.
Can it?
regarding
Well, the
mobile
moratorium
homes
is on the
manufactured
moratorium is on the
So that's where we
manufactured.
need more
On the
specificity, I
manufactured.
On the
think.
manufactured
Do
housing.
you have any else in front of you right now?
Should it be
Do we have any
manufactured or should it just be
Yeah.
labeled mobile? Because
Well,
I
yeah.
have a problem with mobile. I don't have a problem with manufactured.
They're one
So
and the same.
manufactured is mobile.
But we've got to define it within the town somehow because there's a big difference as,
Yeah, there's
as
a
we know.
state definition
So-
that they could look at and
I mean,
figure out.
Yeah, there is a state definition on that.
That's what I thought too. I thought they were the same. They're actually the same thing. I thought, but the wording.
Right,
makes
but
sound
we
like
as a
there's two different
town can
ones.
define the difference and make
Right.
it this. If they want to label it one thing, we can label it, and it be manufactured is one thing and mobile is another.
Well, it's true, because
It's
a mobile
within
home is
each
actually
other.
something older than 76. So you may want
So
to mix
anything-
that in with the what's allowed.
Let's, I'm going to put this out here. I don't want any loopholes. I want to make sure we got everything
Right.
covered, everything
Right.
sealed, everything's sewn together, or whatever it is, do you know what I mean? So that way, whatever we have to do, if we have to take time to work on the wording, then we do that too.
I mean, I almost feel that we need to look at all of our zones all about mobile.
Mobile /
Mobile.
manufactured.
All across the whole town for zone, in any zone. Where are they defined to be able to allow to have mobile homes? Not manufactured, but mobile.
Rolf was thinking on this one, I can see it.
Can I ask one
That would be
further
a kind of a tough
clarification
one. You can't
question?
Hold on a second.
keep them out of the whole town.
You can.
Would your decision tonight
I
impact
used to live in
the
one,
permit
so
that's
I'm
already
not
been
down in
issued?
it. I'm just.
No. If a permit's been issued, it's issued.
Okay.
So it's
Any
anything from
permits that have already been
tonight
issued
on.
are valid as of the date they were issued.
Okay.
We can't, what we're doing is putting a stop as of today.
On any additional ones.
Yes.
And they still have the 30 days to appeal my decision to put that out there. I'd have to look and see where we are on that time frame. But that's the only, for the
They
for the
have the
permit,
30
yes,
days.
for the
Yes,
permit
that's
itself.
still, that's already in progress, is what it is. So that's kind of like almost a separate thing right now, and they
Yeah.
have to, they still have the 30 days to do that.
Because, I mean, that goes on the date of the application. So-
Correct.
So
And that
all we're
was
doing is
before-
we're putting a stop as of today.
All right, so you got it?
Let's try it again. Motion to approve the moratorium on manufactured homes for 180 days, with any decisions to be retroactive to the date of the moratorium, and no associated permits may be obtained until resolved. And ask the planning board to look at what is allowed in the shoreline zone and in the LRR1 zone, to be sure that manufactured housing is allowed / prohibited as appropriate, and report back to the select board within 100 days by selectmen, whoever.
So moved.
Can,
Yeah,
well,
second.
let me just suggest this, that we say manufactured / mobile. That would make it a lot clearer. Anybody?
Yep.
I know, I
Yeah.
totally
Agree with that?
agree. Totally. I don't have an issue with any manufactured, but within manufactured mobile is where I would have
Yeah.
permit issues.
So you use the word associated permits?
And no associated permits.
Would that
I wasn't
include-
sure how to,
Would that include plumbing and electrical? For this year? If it's a permit
No, just
associated?
plumbing and electrical is on
Yeah.
an existing.
Yeah, I think we're, and to me, that
So
would be
no,
a
this is-
You-
structural,
Yeah.
a dwelling unit rather than.
Any plumbing and electrical would be on an existing, so it's already permitted.
Well,
yeah, I
new
meant
stuff.
associated to the manufactured homes, and maybe I
Fine.
maybe I didn't word that properly.
I just wanted.
Shall I read it
Make
again?
as clear as.
Yeah, one more time.
Okay. Motion to approve the moratorium on manufactured / mobile homes for 180 days, with any decisions to be retroactive to the date of the moratorium, and no associated permits may be obtained until resolved. And ask the planning board to look at what is allowed in the shoreline zone and in the LRR1 zone, to be sure that manufactured / mobile housing is allowed / prohibited as appropriate, and report back to the select board within 100 days.
Okay, so we have them doing what's allowed, what's not, but I think it needs to be somewhere in that moratorium that the wording needs to be changed. Because the wording is very, between what's on
That's their
the.
record, that becomes part of their recommendation, what the wording should be.
Okay, as long as I got that in there, I'm good. All right, so it's been motion and second. Any other comments? So for 180 days, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Thank you.
Scott. All right, update of the Regional Broadband Initiative.
We have Tom Bartel from Wyndham Economic Development Corporation and Travis Kennedy, who is the Assistant County Manager of Cumberland County, to make this presentation. Where did we end up on the electronic version?
I'm not sure.
If we can't view it here tonight, all of the pertinent material is in the packets in front of you, so it'll be quicker without it. But if you're able to open it, then
I don't have my email set up on this PC.
it's a lot of pointless transitions and fades and wipes that will waste your time.
Let's go with the Reader's Digest version.
Okay, absolutely.
Read it.
Oh, if you receive these, this is a test on that. That was what I sent.
But I will make sure it's given to Kevin for the tape.
Madam Chair, members of the Select Board. As Manager Willard said, I am Tom Bartel. My day job is Executive Director of the Wyndham Economic Development Corporation. One of the items that we've been working on is an evaluation and analysis of current broadband capabilities and capacities within a 4-town region. We've come to call that the Lakes Region Broadband Partnership. Those 4 towns are Wyndham, Raymond, Gray, and Standish. So this started in May of 2015. We started discussing this as 4 communities. And we've been discussing it with stakeholders representing businesses, public schools, municipal economic development agencies and committees, Cumberland County, St. Joseph's College, and residents to better understand the needs and current capacity of the region for broadband services. These 4 communities with their partners are taking steps to achieve their vision of symmetrical gigabit broadband service, gigabit speeds in both download and upload mode, to every premise in the region, along with a digitally aware populace which can take full advantage of a true high-speed broadband network. I do want to acknowledge Manager Willard, Kevin Woodbury, and Laurie Forbes, who've been working with us for all these 3 years. It seems like longer sometimes. But we have gone through a number of processes. First of which, as we formed our group, we came up with a number of needs that the community had, the 4-town region had, when it comes to economic development and community development within our 4 towns. So attracting new technology-based or dependent businesses along our main streets and in our villages, reducing vacancy rates in existing retail office space in the villages and along connecting travel corridors, supporting existing small and larger businesses that require increasing broadband capacity, keeping up with increasing broadband demand from home occupations and telecommuters, competing with urban hubs in close proximity to our region for existing and new businesses, maintaining a highly skilled, digitally literate workforce to attract and sustain technology-reliant businesses, providing high-quality educational opportunities in our public and private schools and for their students needing access while at home, providing high-quality educational opportunities in residential colleges, as well as those students who utilize online distance learning, sustaining tourism and improving seasonal residents' experience by increasing the quality of broadband for telecommuting, having access to a robust and redundant broadband network for critical services, future-proofing any investments made in the expansion and extension of broadband service. So at that point, and after those discussions, we, the Economic Development Corporation, the Wyndham Economic Development Corporation, hired Tilson Technologies. Tilson Technologies is one of the leading experts in broadband. They're located in Maine. They're now a national firm. And we hired them to look at the high-speed broadband in the Lakes region. They
prepared a report, and essentially what we found through conversations with broadband providers as well as users throughout the region is that there are fiber optic lines and connections in the region. They are available, but they're not being made available by the internet service providers at an affordable price, especially for small businesses and homeowners, and only in limited areas. There is not enough competition to drive pricing down, and many felt the one or two providers available to any given location were not responsive to the overall needs of the region. As a major economic driver for the state, this region wants to build on its success and be a viable option for businesses looking to relocate, perhaps attracting different types of businesses that need high capacity, highly reliable internet connections. And there's a strong feeling among our membership that the communities wanted to take control of their own destiny and not be told what they need, but to tell others what they need when it comes to broadband capacity. So after after that report, we applied to the Connect Me Authority, which provides funding for planning as well as infrastructure development. We were unsuccessful in our first attempt at a grant. Our second attempt at a grant working with Axiom Technologies, which also is a leader in broadband access as well as digital literacy programming, education programming. We were successful and awarded a $15,000 community broadband planning grant from Maine's Connect Me Authority. That planning grant, the focus of the community broadband planning grant was the design of 40 miles of open access fiber backbone with service provider access points, the review of and enhancement of digital inclusion services throughout the region, and the development of a long-term management plan. That is kind of where we stand now. We received the results of that work has provided the information necessary for the partnership and, more importantly, the region's residents and businesses and municipalities to move forward with implementing next steps and realizing their economic and social goals, if that is the choice of the municipalities as we move forward. So 40 miles of fiber is a lot of fiber. However, in order to connect to the high-speed internet superhighway, which in our language is the three-ring binder. Three-ring binder was a project that was largely paid for with federal dollars, provided 1,100 miles of fiber connectivity in 3 rings around the state of Maine. The closest place where the 3-ring binder comes to our region is at 114 and 35 in Standish. So that's 8 miles away from Route 302 and 35 and 115. So it's approximately 8 miles there. This project would bring what we were looking at, and what the focus of the broadband planning grant was how much it would cost and what the feasibility was of putting that 40 miles together. So to explain where that's going to go, or where it's proposed to go, it would start at the 3-ring binder in Standish. It would come across Route 35 to what we call Booty's Corner in Wyndham, or that's the 302, 35, 115 intersection. Where Walgreens is, and right at the intersection. From there, it would we'll just keep going on 115. It'll go out to Gray Center, and move and into up to where their schools are, and then it would include their municipal building.
The Gray schools, you mean? Out?
The Grays, the
Was
Gray
that
New Gloucester
26?
schools in Gray.
Okay.
So what's that, off of 26?
I think it's 26.
Off of 26. So it go through Gray Center and then up a short ways up 26 to where the schools would be. On Route 302, it would run from Route 302 through North Windham, through Raymond on Route 302, a little past Route 85 to, I guess, the near the fire station, or trying to capture and move it further up Route 302, and then out 85 to here, essentially, to up in this area here.
By my house.
Right.
That was part of the criteria we looked for.
Up to the town office.
That's
my house.
exactly, that was one of the criteria we had. I don't
Yeah,
know
exactly.
How that worked. No, but that's, in Raymond, that's what we're talking about. So we've got Gray, Standish on Standish, we're talking about going up Whites Bridge Road in Standish, going up to, across Whites Bridge to Route 302. St. Joseph's College is very interested in redundant services and other things for their growing needs when it comes to broadband. There. In Wyndham, it would further run down Route 302, around the Rotary or through the Rotary, out to the school complex and the public safety building there. We also have a leg that would run up to the new shared maintenance facility that's being built, Public Works area.
How many miles is all that? Is that
40 miles,
Seriously?
yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
That covers a lot, actually.
that's a lot of miles.
Yeah.
And this would be backbone, so this would be high capacity, high number of fibers in this line to allow for other branches to come off of it. And the general thinking is that this sort of network would allow for private providers to be able to attach to this network and take it the last mile or the last 1,000 feet or whatever it is to your home, or however it would get there. This network would not be, and the ownership of this network, while it may be through a municipal partnership, would not be the one providing service to homes or businesses. That would be
Oh,
done
they might
through,
have won it after all that.
that would be
Changed
done
their
through the
mind.
private
Right,
sectors.
right.
So
Yeah.
so
we have
anybody
the
who
option
wanted
to
to connect,
Right.
and certainly had the expertise to connect, could connect to there, and then hopefully over time, fees for that connection would help pay for that whole system. So those are, that's the general outline of what we have been doing over 3 years. And we are, right now, we're rolling it out I rolled it out to the Wyndham Town Council. We had a conversation there, and I'm here tonight, and I'll be going to Gray on the 3rd of July and Standish on the 10th to have this conversation, and hopefully Travis or Jim can come with us, and we'll be moving forward from there. And we're not really asking you for anything tonight. We're just explaining what's going on and that sort of thing. And I know Travis is here because it's pretty exciting what the county is thinking about doing. So, but I know Don had a question.
Well, I just want to say, I think we are asking for something tonight. What we're asking for is not money, we're not asking for a financing plan, because we don't really know what that's going to look like at this point. I'm really glad that Cumberland County has jumped into this and has shown a great interest, and has been successful in getting some funding, which I'm sure Travis will outline. And I know there's some, some confusion, maybe some opposition even to the notion that government ought to be providing, this sort of municipal infrastructure and/or potentially services, but probably not services. But to me, this is the essential infrastructure of of our times, and much like water, sewer, good roads, good information technology, pipes is where it's at. And so whether it's provided by the private sector, which I think would be the optimal model, that would be great. They don't seem to be doing it very, very quickly. A lot of towns around Maine are looking at exactly what we're looking at, and I think if we're going to be economically viable, if we're going to be relevant as an area to do business in the future, whether it's done privately, whether it's done as a partnership between the nonprofit towns or some corporation that we might form, or some combination, whether we're able to be innovative and get grants. We've tried to do that somewhat successfully, somewhat not successfully. We did try a very, I think, innovative grant that ended up being awarded to another part of Maine that was perhaps more needy. But we tried for that grant. I don't think we're through trying for grants. But the real question to me is, broadband or not? And I think the answer is yes, and that we have to do it. And we have to find a way to do it. We don't have that way this evening, but so I say that we're looking for an affirmative, acknowledgement that this is important and that we need to move forward.
Couple of questions. You made allusions to the fact that it's it's similar to roads and things like that, which to some degree it is. And my question would be, what buy-in do we have from the state that if I'm looking after it's in 3 to 5 years down the road when maintenance is needed on it and things like that, who's responsible for that? If we look at the state-owned roads or roads that should be state-owned and they're supposed to maintain them and they don't, if there's no buy-in from the state on there, where are we 3 years down the road when things start to break down?
Well, that's a great question, and I asked that question some of that question, I guess, in the legislative forum, and I got great response, I thought, from our legislative delegation in saying that the state had not done enough and needs to do more. And I would be optimistic and look forward to the next governor working on that aggressively, because you don't have to look very far in New England and across this country to see that other areas are doing this. They're doing it in various ways, and so Maine is a bit behind the times, and I'm thinking that that's going to change. I'm hoping that's going to change.
And one of the things that we are looking at and that the county is going to be helping us look at is the model, the ownership model, and the ongoing, control, maintenance, that sort of thing. And, so I'll just, if you build it, they will come. You never know that. But the model, the general model is that there will be revenue coming in to this system that will allow for that, not only to help pay for it and hopefully pay for it completely, but will allow for that maintenance, that ongoing maintenance that's needed. When somebody hits a telephone pole and the thing comes down, you need to be able to get it back up and make sure that the connections are still going. So it's that sort of thing that we're going to be looking at over the next really few months, and trying to come up with the model, the ownership model, the operational model, and a funding or a number of funding mechanisms to look at. We're not going to stop looking for funding. I know that the U.S. Department of Commerce, EDA, we've had conversations with Alan Brigham, who is a Windham resident. He's the representative for Maine, New Hampshire from the U.S. Economic Development Administration, and they are doing they are funding these types of projects. So, their funding is limited as well as anybody else's. There are limitations to the funding that you could get, but there are mechanisms. there a mechanism in state law that the legislature did put in to provide for revenue bonds that can be sold by an entity that owns these, that can, again, pay for construction and that sort of thing. So there are models that can help keep it away from the property tax, base. There may be some, requests for that early on in particular, because nothing ever starts, for free. But we don't know that yet. And I know Travis, that's very much part of what Travis and the Cumberland County is looking to look at. So if we can.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Travis Kennedy. Don gave me a promotion. I'm actually the Director of Public Affairs for Cumberland County Government. I did have a slideshow. My apologies that I didn't get here early enough to queue it up, but I raced here from the State House where we're asking for jail money, and believe me, I would so much rather have been here with all of you earlier. The good news is it takes about a half hour to click through, and I can probably do this in a much shorter amount of time. A little more than a year ago, our commissioners had a retreat, and what they did in advance of that retreat is they were out in their communities trying to get an understanding of what Cumberland County could do for the region that it needs. And it's a constant push and pull with county government in New England. We don't have an enormous amount of power, we don't have an enormous amount of money, but we have the capability to work across town lines and to bring communities together. And so our commissioners spent some time trying to figure out excuse me, what those needs are, and what they are learning from their constituents are some of the biggest challenges facing the region, and what we might be able to contribute to help. One of them they all unanimously came back with was broadband expansion and high-speed internet service, particularly for economic development, but also for residential use. They were hearing a lot of things that some of you may be hearing, that it may not be happening today, but the ability to attract a business to a community that can't provide at least 50 megabytes download per second is going to be challenging if it's not already. The United States Department of Commerce defines 25 megabytes per second down as what's required for a connected household. A lot of the homes in our region can't do better than 3. So while this may not immediately be affecting who you're able to draw on for businesses, whether it's your real estate sales are starting to show some weakness, our commissioners are afraid that it will eventually. And so what inspired a lot of their work was the work that's been done by Don and Tom in the 4 towns so far, related to the Lakes Region Broadband Partnership. If those 4 towns together can find a way to develop a system that is potentially expandable throughout their communities to communities beyond them, what kind of hurdles can we help clear, and how can we contribute to make that project happen? And if we're able to do that, how can we use that to sort of launch these efforts into other parts of the county? So ultimately what our goal was going into this was to help you all answer the questions that you're asking tonight, and to contribute financially wherever we possibly can if you decide that you want to move forward and build. We applied for funds through Community Development Block Grant. We managed to secure about $25,000 for a planning grant that we're willing to contribute some of our own funds to, essentially to help you answer all of the questions that you may have about building broadband. In particular, what happens if a line breaks or a pole goes down? How do we negotiate on behalf of our constituents with internet service providers? Who builds it? Who maintains it? How does everybody pay? What's the town's commitment? What's the county's commitment? All of these questions that when a community starts to explore municipal broadband, they run into, and some communities kind of stop right away because they can't find the answers. So our first step in this is to use our planning grant to, as Tom talked about, develop sort of the perfect model of a regional entity, a broadband utility, similar to what you may have seen formed down east, that any community, any interested community could become a partner of. beginning with the 4 of you, but if you saw the opportunity to expand to others, there would be a model to welcome them in that would answer all of these questions for you. How do we build it? How do we pay for it? What do we do if it breaks? What's the best method of negotiating with service providers? All of these things that you want to try to figure out. So you now have the answers to every question you may have before you decide that you want to move forward. If you decide that you do want to move forward, we're willing and interested in being a permanent partner. This is a long-term goal of Cumberland County, beginning with your towns, but hopefully beyond. What we also managed to secure was a little more than $140,000 in construction funds for part of the Lakes Region Broadband Partnership build-out. The only section of this proposal that qualifies for federal CDBG funds is gray. So the money would be able to be used for the stretch of road between North Windham and Gray. If you formed a regional partnership, then Gray is not the only beneficiary. That should come off of the bottom line for your entire investment. That was our hope. So that's what we've done so far. Our goal is to be partners, to try and eliminate any hurdles that prevent you from moving forward if you choose to, and to invest wherever we can. If what we learn from this research project developing the entity is that Cumberland County should house the entity, or there are certain places where there's just a very lonely stretch of road that it makes no sense for you all to invest in. If there's a town where where public Wi-Fi makes sense, those are the things that Cumberland County would consider contributing over the next several years to help spread access across the region. If you all, I'm sorry, members of the audience, that you can't see these, but if you all look at the handout that I gave you, the story is told in the last couple of pages with the 4 maps. If you start with map 1, Tom described the 3-ring binder, which was a federal investment in dark fiber across the state. Cumberland County, I'll try and draw this with my hands for all of you. If you picture Cumberland County being a rectangle, the 3-ring binder kind of runs up the eastern and western sides of the county. So ideally, if we wanted to build, we could build in from both sides and create more of a spoken wheel rather than a frame. So map 1 shows the current position of the 3-ring binder in Cumberland County. Map 2 shows the first stage of the Lakes Region Broadband Partnership, which Tom described. That first stretch running from the southern shore of Sebago Lake up to Booty's Corner. The second stretch to Gray. And that second stretch, of course, is the portion that we're able to get about half of the cost of, paid for with federal money. Map 3 then shows your completed project, which is kind of across, sort of in the dead geographic center of Cumberland County. And then map 4 is the visionary one. It's where we believe we could go once we've completed that project. And for those of you in the audience, it kind of now looks like a spoken wheel. Broadband is running from North Windham up to Naples and beyond, and down through Westbrook into Gorham, from Gray down to North Yarmouth and back to the 3-ring binder. So not only are you reaching a lot more communities, but you're also creating that redundancy that Tom talked about. This is why we're so interested and invested in helping this project to happen. The one other thing that I should mention is, for instance, that first leg that comes from Standish. If our goal is to try and help feed communities beyond the four of you, it may make sense for us to invest in trying to increase the capacity from that part of Standish. So we now have more fiber that can go beyond. These are the questions that we don't have answers to yet. Our goal for now is we get some money, and we want to collect from you as many questions as you may have while you make the decision about whether you want to move forward.
And back to just, sorry.
No,
And back to not just questions. I think the real fundamental thing, not to be too redundant here, is what do you think, folks? Is this something we should be onto or not? That's really the question. You know, we put a lot of effort into getting this far, and certainly we're not going to get to the finish line unless we do a heck of a lot more work. And I, for one, am prepared to do that and think it's the right thing to do. But if the elected, leaders don't share that vision, then then it's probably game over with respect to this, and we will wait, and it will inevitably, hopefully, come through some mechanism in the future. I don't know if it's a year, 2, 5, 10, but I don't think we can wait that long. I think we really have to be aggressive, and I think just by being aggressive, we may in fact leverage ourselves into a position where we see this happening sooner rather than later. But that's me. I'm wondering how the Board of Selectmen feel about it.
And if I may just hop onto that, John. We have some money now that we can spend to just answer questions. It doesn't commit you to build anything. So by all means, flood us with them. Ask your constituents, ask your local businesses, and we're prepared to do a very, very significant research project that may yield results that change your minds one way or the other. Some other additional funding sources and partners that we've been pursuing over the past couple of months. The new federal budget allocates an extra $600 million toward mostly rural broadband construction. It goes through USDA Rural Development, which generally has some strict guidelines about where their money can go. We've made appeals directly through Rural Development, through their regional office and their state offices, and through our delegation to consider a regional utility like the one that you would probably build as a pass-through for those funds, because you can build a lot more through a project like that than you could giving a chunk of money to a small town and asking them to figure it out on their own. There's a foundation that has invested heavily in helping communities develop feasibility projects, whether bringing public utilities on board, in our case CMP, Portland Water District, who might have an interest in fiber to the business and fiber to the home, may want to be partners. We're pursuing that as well. So we're going to keep trying to drum up resources that may help make this an easier thing to do. And as we start to get more answers, we'll also visit other communities beyond yours to see if a bigger net lessens your commitment, lessens your risk, and helps construction happen faster. So absolutely, I hope that you have the conversation. I want to come back to you in a couple of months with more information too.
Do you guys questions?
I just want to say that I've talked to Tom about this on several occasions through the Vitalization Committee. I understand you've been in a couple of those meetings too. I am for this program in general. I think there's some questions that need to be answered, but I'm for it. But when it comes to Raymond, we're not looking for this to provide business enhancement because we have pretty much a closed commercial zone, and I don't see us expanding that at all. I think it's going to be a great advantage to the town hall and the town systems that we have. The schools today, maybe not, maybe in a couple of years, maybe, I don't know. But I think the big one for town of Raymond is the ability to provide an access for home businesses. And I think that would be our sale. Whether that's cost effective or not, I'm not sure. The other thing I think is that what you're talking about is providing us with an empty pipe. What's happening on the other side with the internet service providers? Do they pay to come on this? Do we pay them to come on this? What happens there? Because I know there's a transition in the broadcast media. You have to buy them, and now they buy your time.
Yeah, there are a couple of models, and this is what we want to help you determine, because in some places in the country, they build everything, and the internet service providers then compete over providing service. That may work, that may not. Where it does work, they end up charging about $10 a month, and you're
to the average homeowner.
To the average homeowner, the cost of maintenance and construction, of course, are worked in other places, but the average homeowner may spend $40 or $50 a month, all told.
These are for laddered speeds,
right?
I would assume.
Actually, if it's fiber, you're getting probably a gigabit symmetrical no matter what.
One speed fits all. Would that
One
be?
speed fits all.
Starting place, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Other models are exactly like what Tom described, which is the trunk is built, and an agreement can be made with a service provider who then also has to meet your expectations, which is that you have to build to rural homes, you have to build to low-income homes. There are a bunch of different ways you can do it, and that's what we want to help you figure out is what the best model is for you.
We would set up a corporation, ABC Corporation, which would own the pipeline. Is that correct? Where's the county fit in that?
We would either be partners and part owners along with you, or we would, as part of your long-range planning, come in with financial investments wherever it helps to continue expanding.
I'm not sure you know this, but in the last few years, we have not been excited about paying our county dues. We really don't want to see those increase, okay?
Understood?
So if there's a,
That's why it's so exciting that they're doing something that we really find.
we don't know that yet, do we? We don't know that.
And we don't either. I mean, our goal in this is to figure out how we can add capacity and support the work being done.
Yeah.
Raymond would have a small part of this, because we're talking about from the Wyndham Town Line to 85 through Main Street to the public service to the 2 schools and maybe up to Sabre Yachts, and that would be about it. But that's not a big portion of that 40 miles. That's
No.
20%.
You know, in my travels around the region, and looking at, all of you would know much better than I where your expansion would come off of that trunk line. You know, where it makes sense, where it doesn't. But if I'm all about looping, and if you look at the, Egypt Road goes down over to Gray, however that gets there, whatever roads those are. But even when you look at, right, I mean, there's parts of that road that have no power, nothing on it, right?
Yeah.
So, it's those sort of things that we would have to look at, and that's what Travis was talking about. If it makes sense, physically, if it makes sense to make those connections so that there's a redundancy or there's something there, but there's nobody there to pay for that service, that's where some of this additional funding may come in so that it makes a network whole. But each community would have a better sense of where to expand. One of our first extensions, if this occurs, would be further down Route 202 into South Wyndham and then over towards Little Falls and Gorham. Now, in that extension, Cumberland County CDBG funds might be a way of doing some of that as well. I know, Raymond, you pretty much are shut out of CDBG funds and some other funds.
Almost.
I mean, it's the nature of things.
Yes.
But
Just one last thing that occurs to me. I mean, to me, when you build this sort of infrastructure, unlike roads or wastewater, where, well, actually in wastewater there is competition for private sector ownership and management, but you have a fixed asset, you have something that is of value.
Right.
And so assuming that the financing to put that in place and or the grants and aid that put that in place are not prohibitive, you have a marketable asset. So that's a different thing to me than building a road.
right.
Although they are infrastructure, but it's a different type of infrastructure.
It is, and
So
there
therefore, I
was
think you-
conversation about, is this going to last? And, this installation is meant to be a 20, 30-year installation. The data travels at the speed of light over fiber network. It isn't much faster than the speed of light. So thinking about, obsolescence over time, it's less likely with a fiber build that you're going to have that obsolescence. Now, all of your other services are run off of fiber networks, your cell towers, your 5G networks, all of those things are run off of fiber networks, and those are that backbone will be able to provide that. Some other means of getting that service to your home may occur than a wire, but at least you'll have that backbone there to be able to provide those services.
My point is that the private sector should be interested if we don't have, this is not something we have to get into forever.
Right.
I mean, we can be a catalyst to change and to
Yeah.
get this thing built, hopefully, but I mean, my model is not to be in the owning the cable system or owning the internet system. It would be to get this thing done and to come up with a marketable model.
Any more questions?
So,
We're good.
Thank you very much. I did provide Don with one copy of this which is all of the proceedings and reports that we have. If you want additional copies, that I have them, but most people don't want to look through hundreds of pages of information.
Sam's going to read this tonight.
Would it be acceptable to you all if I posted this onto the web and asked for a comment from folks?
Fine.
Why not?
Yeah.
Just to see what people
There's
think.
more questions that
Of
come
course.
up.
And
Yeah.
we can certainly provide all of that electronically as well.
Let's do that then.
Wait, you put this also for the town office too.
Thank you.
Early.
Thank you.
You put that in the town office. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. Next, RSU withdrawal update presentation. Me. Okay. One of the key issues that we have, I think, in this town, a big problem is getting word out to everybody as to what's going on. I have here for the selectmen 353 signatures that have all been verified for a petition to withdraw from the RSU. Just for the people at home, this isn't something that we've rushed into quickly. We have been working as a select board, and Marshall as budget finance has come in with us. We've been working with attorneys, sending letters to the RSU board and the town of Wyndham to come to the table, to talk to us. We have cost-sharing agreements. They will not talk to us. So I think it's kind of having our hand forced right now is what it is regarding moving to the next step. So I'm presenting this to the board and asking for the board's for pretty much approval to move forward on with the withdrawal from the RSU. This is a 22-step process. There's a lot of work that has to be done and a lot of information that has to be gathered.
I mean, I think it's important for people to understand too that this is only a first step, which is to put to allow the process to start, to develop a withdrawal plan, put steps in place to what would we do in the event that we withdraw and things like that. So this is not a document that withdraws us from the school. All this does is says the town is asking us to look at that. There's some immediate steps that we have to take as far as a public hearing to go over that, then a vote from the town as to whether we want to begin the process of the withdrawal. At the end of that process is another vote that says, okay, you've done all that, now is that what you want to do? So this step right here does not withdraw us from there. All it does is says start the research project.
And I guess I want to clarify something too. I did this 3 years ago, and it was definitely not unsuccessful, as I'm looking over at Matt over there. What we did is we got a cost-sharing agreement out of that last withdrawal, and we also got our percentage that we pay into the school, because we only have about 570 some kids in the whole school district. So we got a cost-sharing lowered from 45% down to 36%, and it's even, I think, 29 now. So I think we were successful. What we're not successful with right now is the board adhering to that cost-sharing agreement. So what I've been telling people is this, again, like what Rolf said, this does not automatically get us withdrawn. And it's not the board of 4 people that will be made up, and we want other people to be on the committee too. It's the people in the town that vote, is what it is. It's the voters who decide pushing it through to the next steps. So what we would do is we would set up somewhat of a time schedule. And I'm also looking this time to work with a consultant who has done this before. I don't think I can make the motion on my own petition.
Well, the motion at this point would be to accept the petition as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, so I'm gonna hand this piece of gold back to Sue then after this.
And the second motion would be to establish the date for a public hearing.
If anybody has any questions in the public regarding this process, anything at all, please, go to the town office to get in touch with us or email us or whatever so we can answer questions. We have to have a public meeting first, is what it is, a public hearing. Sue, I thought you had, yeah, right here it is. All right. So we have to call a special town meeting, but is our next step. But in that, we have to have a hearing, public hearing before that. That's what we have to do.
So do we need to establish that date with this motion, or?
It would be a separate motion. It would be a separate, the motion, we've already passed the motion to accept the petition. So now what we're doing is we'd have to set the date for the public hearing. And then after the public hearing, then you get into a vote as to whether the townspeople want us to continue the approach. At that point, then you form the committee.
And this petition has to have the specific wording, which is on your schedules too. As to, it would say, do you favor filing a petition for withdrawal with the Board of Directors of Regional School Unit RSU 14 and with the Commissioner of Education, authorizing the withdrawal committee to expend, we would have to figure out what amount then, and authorizing the municipal officers, pretty much the group, to issue notes in the name of the town of Raymond or otherwise pledge the credit of the town of Raymond in an amount not to exceed a certain dollar, yes or no. That's what they would be voting on.
Madam Chairman, I don't want to disagree with Selectmen, but the next step is to set the date of a special town meeting. The public hearing is at least 10 days prior to that. So
Right.
by setting the special town meeting, you are in effect saying when the public hearing has to be.
10 days before. Okay.
They're tied together.
This is mid-June now. I'm thinking July is going to be crazy for some. For Marshall over here. If we look at the beginning of August for the special town meeting, then we can backtrack towards the end of June for the 10 days. Does that make sense?
We need a public hearing, but we need 10 days ahead of that.
Yes.
Right, you need
Yes.
So if
a minimum of 10 days prior to.
All right, so how would the July 31st look
For
For the public meeting.
for the public meeting?
And then the
And
vote.
then 10 days before that would be the 17th,
July 17th?
right, July 17th. Does that work in the
You
scheme
mean
of
have
things?
the public hearing on the 31st?
Yes.
So the special town meeting would be August 10th or
Right,
August 14th.
August
Oh,
14th.
I was trying to push
No,
it
you
too,
went
I
back.
was trying to push it too
You're
far.
looking at reverse.
So-
'cause you-
Okay,
So if you
reverse
did-
17th and the 31st.
So if you did the special town meeting on the 31st, then the public hearing could be
The 17th.
the 17th.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way I was taking it.
Yeah,
What
Sam's going to
that-
be out of town, so.
What that
Actually,
makes
yeah.
it difficult is
Yeah,
if
too.
there would be absentee ballots involved, because if there are, then we would have 30 days for absentee voting.
What do you need for the soonest, the most available date? So you need 30 days. This would put us up to July 19th.
If we are going to have absentee voting, then we would need to have
Okay,
30
so if
days.
you-
They'd have to be available for 30 days.
So if you establish the 14th of August for the vote, then you go back 10 days, it puts you at the end of July for the hearing.
And that would give us mid-July to have the ballots available.
So you would have mid-July till the...
August 14th.
So that-
31st and the 14th.
31st.
So
Yes, 14th of August works.
4th of August, would that give it, still give time?
4th of August is a Saturday.
All right. That will not work.
No.
Well, it would if people want to vote on a
And-
Saturday.
And not to be Johnny Raincloud, but I'm out of here the first week of August.
I know, if you- if
Do you see what I'm working with here? Schedules,
Yeah,
vacations.
but well, I mean, that's the
That's
thing
the
with
reality
summer.
of
I
it.
mean, if we went the 14th for the vote, that puts us the 31st for the public hearing.
Right.
The 14th.
Hmm?
The 14th for public hearing. It's the
No.
31st.
14th for the vote.
Yep,
Public hearing on the 31st of July,
yep, and the vote will be on the 14th.
of August, correct?
Sounds good.
I wanted it sooner, but everybody's on vacation.
Sorry. It's gonna be as well.
So I would
I'll
move
take it.
to establish the public hearing July 31st with a vote on August 14th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Works.
All right, so that is going to be step 2, 3, 4. Okay,
Thank you.
and I'm not sitting here saying I'm doing the happy dance either. I'm going to actually take one thing out of line here a second. Marshall, welcome to the select board, by the
Thank you very
way.
much, down to 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you.
15 to 20 minutes, 2.5 hours later. Yes. All right. So with that, the public hearing is for people to come out and ask questions, to get out to and get as much information out to the public as we can. And there is going to be a website set up on the Town of Raymond website, and it will be can't be RSU withdrawal because we already have that on there.
RSU withdrawal too.
Phase two.
The sequel. All right, got that? All right, so anybody wants information on this, it's Town of Raymond. Look under RSU withdrawal 2. All right, cool. All right, moving on. It was funny. Some people, I have to say, some people walk up and go, at this again, are we? Yeah, we are. All right, consideration of abatement requests. Mr. Willard.
We have a couple from the same couple and/or their corporate entities. So it's from Scott and Jane Maxwell. And so we have map and lot 003019. And that had a 2017 assessment of $931,200. And the taxpayer had an opinion of value at $600,000, and then the assessor's agent has made a recommendation at $760,800 after analysis and looking at comparables and whatnot. And then there's also map and lot 065-005, and well, I should say the first one's 4.7 acres with accessory cabins on Sheehan's Island. The second one is 3.54 acres of vacant land with a 2017 assessment of 414, taxpayer opinion of value of $215,000, an assessor's agent recommendation of $373,300. So we're looking at a valuation abated of $211,100, a tax amount of $2,596.53. So this is upon recommendation of our assessor's agent, Kurt LaBelle.
So we would need the motion on the recommended action.
The recommended action
Yeah.
of the assessor's agent, yes. Or contract assessor, I should say.
All right. Can I get,
Move to approve the assessor's recommendation of $760,800 on the value on map 003-19.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Make a motion to accept assessor's agent recommendation of $373,300 on map lot 065005, which is 3.54 acres of vacant lot.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right.
I guess it's just by signature on that one. I handed it to you and I need to.
Okay, consideration of Board of Assessment review appointments. Good
We
news.
currently have one member of the Board of Assessment Review, Brenda Tubbs. She's hung in there. There has not been a appeal to the Board of Assessment Review since 2012, so there hasn't been any hurry until now. There is currently one that has been submitted, and we have heard there may be one more that will be coming. So we're trying to put together the committee. I believe most of the members here are familiar to the board. Robert Harmon is the former CEO of Norway Savings. Michael D'Arcangelo is he's retired CEO or assessor. I think
He
I
is a
misspoke.
former
I think it was
assessor of the town of
yes.
Gorham.
Assessor. Joanne Stinson is currently on the board of the zoning board of appeals, and Chris Hansen is just a guy we found on the side of the road somewhere. He's our former CEO. And they have all agreed to be on the board.
Do we need to make a motion to accept all 5 of these, or one at a time?
I think you gotta do them one at a time, because they're all individual.
Okay.
All right, do the first one there, Lonnie.
I'd like to make a motion to allow,
Appoint.
appoint, there we go, I like that much better. To appoint Robert Harmon to the appeal board.
Second?
All in favor?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Michael D'Arcangelo, sorry, Michael, to the appeal board.
Second?
Any discussion?
Yes, I got it.
All in favor? There's more for you to sign.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Joanne Stinson to the appeal board.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
I'd like to make a motion to appeal Chris Hansen to the appeal board.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right, make sure you sign all 4 of them, please.
Sign my name on there.
Yeah, right.
Your microphone has now been silenced. All right, do we have to sign those abatements?
No,
No.
Dawn signs those.
Okay,
Just me.
all right. I was wondering when Kathy was here. Money used to be, what?
Their abatements, not big findings.
Oh, right, that's what it is then. Monies to be carried forward into the new fiscal year. Kathy Ricker.
The only request that we're making is if you recall, that they were going to do some work on the North Raymond Cemetery for $10,000.
Raymond
We
Hill.
only had a chance to do $2,000 of it, so we would like to carry forward the $8,000 that remains, so that I can do the work later in the summer.
So that's the only carry forward you have?
All the rest were voted at
Right.
town meeting.
Move to carry forward the cemetery maintenance fund into the 2018-19 budget.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay.
What are we doing on that cemetery?
It's been expanded,
Yeah.
and I believe they've gotten all the stumps out, but they haven't done the grading, they haven't done the loaming.
North Raymond?
Not North Raymond, Raymond Hill.
Yeah. okay.
Raymond Hill.
Thank you.
Raymond
That's
Hill.
what I thought. Thank you.
Sue Carr, delinquent personal property taxes.
Yay, Sue Carr.
But he left.
They did, they cleared out.
Basically, I'm here just to get your approval.
Sue, look who else is leaving.
Does she have, Kathy? Do you have a warrant for the,
No,
oh, there isn't, okay,
no, next week, so I can get more year-end bills in.
okay.
Okay,
And then next month we'll sync up again.
cool, thank you.
Have a good night.
Sorry.
Bye, Sue.
Sorry.
Like all the other towns in Maine, we're having problems with personal property. I sent out postcards. I sent out 6 to Indian Point. 2 of them paid. 2 of them made payment arrangements. 1 got returned because I had the wrong address, and 1 no response. I sent out 28 to the businesses. I got 4 that paid. I got 21 no response, and I got 3 that got returned. I do know that Naples is looking into making the business, people who have personal property, when they pay their real estate taxes, they take their personal property first. I know they were researching that. I'd like to know if that was something that the board would like to do. I also have problems with Cocatosi. I didn't send out postcards this year because I never get anybody to respond. And also, what I'd like to know is Chipco International. They owned property on Harmon Road, and we just sold that last month, or I think it was last month, in April, at the end of April. We had $14,600 roughly in proceeds. I was wondering if I could take that and put it towards their personal property that they still owe from back in 09-10 tax year, and then write off the rest, because the businesses that I have written, to write off, they're out of the town, they're gone, we'll never collect.
Can I ask the total Cocatosi, are these people that just have lots there? Is that what that is?
Yeah, they have their campers there, and they're here for the summer, while
Okay.
Cocatosi's open between April and October 15th.
Okay.
So is the personal property tax owed by Cocatosi or by the person
No.
whose trailer it is?
The person that owns the trailer.
Okay, so
Could we ever change that so that Cocatosi's responsible, or is that unethical?
I mean, that's the physical address of it, but it's not who the actual bill is to, correct?
That's correct. Back to Lonnie's question, though. It is possible. We did this years ago with the Samoset timeshares, which were a constant, churn and a problem. And so, but because in the case of the timeshares, we had, a physical asset that we could sell, and we did threaten to do that. And we worked out an arrangement, a legal arrangement, whereby if the property owner didn't pay, the week or multi-week timeshare owner didn't pay, then the resort would, and we would, transfer the properties to the resort upon payment of said taxes. So in that case, it was in our interest, in their interest, for us not to be selling these things because there's so many of them. But I don't know how that could work in this instance of Cocatosi and trailers. I mean, we could certainly look at it from a legal standpoint. But so I guess there are accommodations that can be made if it becomes too troublesome. It would be in Cocatosi's interest for this not to happen, and in our interest too. So, maybe they could work with us, but they wouldn't have a physical asset, though. So that'd be one problem.
Right.
We have one for $1.33.
Yeah. It's the computer that spits them out. So,
Sorry.
But in the case of the timeshares, I threatened to give them out as, basically door prizes at our annual Christmas party, employee Christmas party, and that caught the Samoset's attention.
I have tried to work with Todd at Cocatosi to have him tell the people they have to come in and pay their taxes. But whether he's told them or not, this is what we did last year. I
think
hear
it's really
nothing
just-
from these people.
Yeah.
So,
So these are trailers on Cocatosi land that,
Yes.
some type of,
Camping trailer.
Well, Cocatosi themselves sell it $97.
Absolutely. But Todd has a
can we
buying
secure the trailers in place?
I'm not really sure what we can do. That would be Kurt's question.
It's certainly a good legal question.
Yeah.
definitely.
If we could secure the units in place, I don't want to be dragging off a bunch of trailers, but if we could secure the units in place to to prohibit access,
Yeah, that would,
then
yes,
Slap a lock on that, yeah.
if
yes.
that can be done legally.
That's what I'd like to know, is if I can pursue finding out if I can go to get legal counsel on some of
The
these.
recourses.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think for that
Yeah.
issue, yes.
okay.
Well, I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess the next step would be to have Don talk to legal and see what our options against these properties are, and then make a decision from there, because, you know, it may well be that there's not a one-size-fits-all answer. And,
That's true too.
you know, and so, you know, it's almost gotta look at it and say, well, if it's this, you know, if
it's a
it's
business,
this, you
this.
can do this, if it's this, you can do that, you know, and see where, you know, see where our lines are. And then, because right now, you know, I couldn't tell you what to do, because I don't know what legal leg we have to stand on that.
Right.
Well, that's a great point. I think every type of, personal, or many types of personal property are going to be different, and so we can talk with the attorney, see what's permissible, we'll get together and talk.
From what I've gathered, about the only thing that I know of is taking them to small claims court.
Yeah.
But then you have the fees to do that too.
Right.
And it's more fees on top of that. you know?
But we can
Then you have to
explore,
chase the money down after
Yeah.
that.
You still have to chase
Because
it,
it's
yes.
not guaranteed. Yeah,
but we can explore other more innovative strategies as well,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think.
I think it's well worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one would be, can you couple it,
Right.
the personal property tax onto their, or the personal property tax onto their real estate tax billing?
I don't think you can add it on to it, but I do have a newspaper article from Naples that their board was looking into
Taking it first.
having a ordinance or a rule by the select board that when I get their taxes, I take personal property first and then apply the rest to real estate. But that is another legal question also as to can that be done?
And
'Cause
that's
I read
not
the
gonna work,
article.
that's not gonna work for many campers at Cocatosi.
Not the campers,
because
but
they're
that
not-
would work
they're not
for
residents.
They have no
a lot of the
residence.
businesses.
But what happened is, that was kind of people are expecting to pay the real estate taxes, not pay the personal taxes. But on the other hand, is they owe both, is what it is.
Right,
So either way.
because the
it's-
real estate taxes, they get leaned.
Right.
Yeah,
And then after 18 months, the town owns it. They
Right.
know that. The personal property, there's no bite to the law. There's
So
no consequences.
I would recommend getting a legal opinion what that bite possibly is, and like Rolf said, have it categorized as to, with this group, you can do this. I mean, break it down.
Well, the bite is, of course, applying the personal property taxes first where applicable,
Yes.
where there are property taxes involved, assuming that we can do that. You say Naples is looking at that.
Look,
So if
yeah.
we can do that, there's your bite right there, then they have a balance too, and
that's only, but now you get into, you've got two different classes.
I understand.
And that could be problematic.
I understand, that's why we have to see if it's legal and then if it's workable. It may not be workable too.
Yeah,
See, then you'd have to have a policy, a plan and a policy.
yeah. So,
Are we sure that Cocatosi, all those trailers are in fact there?
They give us a list every year, and that's the people that were there.
Okay.
There's one, like Mike Stove, I just found out is moved. And then Danny Cole and Becky, they didn't have taxes this year, so evidently they're gone too. And I don't get told when they're gone and where they went and how, you know. I know some of them have been pulled out of there, and they're not supposed to even pull them out of there until they fill out a form at the town office.
Right.
And I sign off saying, yes, their taxes are paid, but there's nothing
You would
that.
think that there'd be more that you could do to the organization, to the company that's there,
Don't allow that.
because they're the ones that probably have insurance because it's their real estate. They're just renting
Harboring them.
a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to put more on to Cocatosi, but just for instance, it seems like
Gotta be something.
they got to help out somehow, and I know help isn't free either, so that gets into a whole, another can of worms, but.
Indian Point is basically different from Cocatosi because the people who have their campers down there own
Own
their
the
land.
land.
Where Cocatosi, they don't own the land, they pay
Right.
rent on that. So,
I think a legal opinion is in order.
I think it's
Right,
good.
and if the legal opinion is that she can do this, I say she goes ahead and does it, and then comes back like in the next meeting.
Well, I
or
think,
whatever
I
it
think
is.
if the legal opinion comes back, then the board has to authorize her to do
Right.
it.
I'd like to see what the opinion is.
Okay,
Because if,
can you,
you know, if she goes and does it without upline backing on it, then it can flow back on her. If she's got, if she has, if,
Us voting
if
on
the,
it
if the
and
opinion, if the
permission.
legal opinion says this can be done, then we authorize that to be done, then she's protected.
okay, that works. So check it out, find out, and we'll get you back
Okay.
at another meeting.
and also the write-offs, I have Danielle Sebago Diner, Future Builders, Penny's Lawn Care, the law office there, and,
office.
Congrats.
yeah, Pungratz, and Riley, Sam Riley, and of course Chipco. I mean, they're all gone.
They're small, chip coat, yeah.
Chipco, like I said, I'd like to take the proceeds from that, put it towards, because I did look at it this morning, and Chipco, out of that 34,000, 16,000 of it is interest. So
Oh,
most
wow.
of it is, you know, getting to the point where it's been on the books for so long, it's interest.
So do you want to do a motion on the 14,000 going over, or can she just apply it?
I think we have the right to
No.
offset against another asset.
Was that the bond that they put up when we did that, or where's that 14,000 from?
The Harmon land?
Harmon,
Sale of the land.
Oh, okay.
The question, I mean, I don't know, this is really, I guess, maybe Sue has some insight into this, we talked about it briefly, but to me, when we took Harmon, the land, it became our land, and so we've sold the land now through a tax-acquired property sale.
correct.
So those are our proceeds. I don't know why you'd apply them to that delinquent account that, you know, Kendall once owned. I think, I do agree with her, you gotta write that off because you're never gonna collect it.
Right.
But I don't know about applying the proceeds of the sale of land that became town-owned
Well,
to it. That's the question, I don't know, I mean, could be
you
right.
know, can you apply the proceeds? Because those proceeds were brought into the 17-18 receivables, which means they're closed at June 30th.
Right, this is the part I mean, I don't know, to me, I think it's cleaner just to write the account off and the proceeds of the tax sale have already been applied.
I mean, it's, you know, essentially, at the end of the day, it's a journal entry.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, you know, it really doesn't matter, because, you know, if you know, all you're doing is applying against one account or another account, so what's the difference?
Yeah, so that's why it's up to you, I mean, it's
Sue
a
just
couple of
likes to
different
have
ways to
clean
go.
books.
You can also
Might
do
clean
what
them
Sue's,
up.
you can also do what Sue's suggesting, it's fine by me, I just don't know. I've never,
We've got the money, it's there.
I mean, we've
crossover.
already brought that in. You're better off just to close that off and be done with it.
Yep.
You know, otherwise, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
it's the same
Comes
thing.
out the same,
So.
yes.
But I agree with her, you gotta get this off the books.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
All right,
Would the auditors have an opinion on that? How they'd want to journal entry that?
We could certainly ask them.
We
That
can
might be
ask.
worth a question to the auditors and see how they want
That's a good suggestion, yeah.
how they want to transact that.
But we'd like to get this wrapped up, so
Right.
could we get a motion to proceed
So moved.
depending on
Second.
what the auditors recommend?
any discussion? All in favor?
Sorry, we moved second.
Okay.
We're just gonna let them talk through it. All right,
All in
pass.
favor?
Yep. All right, thanks,
Thank
Sue.
you.
Great job on opening up the town warrant and seeing only like 2-3 pages compared to a
Yeah.
bunch. Good job. All right.
Public comment.
Consideration of 2 road names.
And we have 2 that have been requested recently, Willard Way
That's a renaming of Route 85.
No.
and Malibu Drive. And Willard Way was actually not their first choice. Their first choice was too close to an existing road. But Willard is, in reference to these folks, grandfather.
Oh,
not
that's
to our
cool.
current town
Nice.
manager.
I'd like to make a motion to accept 2 roadway names, one being Willard Way and the second being Malibu Drive.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Next, consideration of annual staff appointments.
Okay, so I have the list here prepared by Sue, but I am going to make a suggestion and recommendation, and that is to delete by cross-through the Tasseltop Head Ranger, because I say the Tasseltop Head Ranger is under the authority of the Tasseltop Board of Directors. Do you agree?
I was wondering why that was there.
Only because it
especially
always
in light
has
of,
been.
It's always been
especially in
there.
light of past.
Well, it's always been
past
there
events.
apparently, but we're correcting some of
He's
this stuff.
jumping on that one and.
So I've crossed that out and I'll initial it. Okay.
Move the list as amended.
Second.
Sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor? We're gonna get this meeting done before Sam comes back. All right.
Missing all the fun and games.
I know. Annual board, committee, and appointments. Sue?
Sue?
Well, Dawn took the last one that said Sue, so I figured we'd do this one too.
Oh, I can do it if you want. Do you want me to do that?
Well, I'm typing, sure.
Okay, so so we have the appointment by municipal officers with committee members, and so it's just a listing here of all the different committees, I guess, that you would have appointment authority over. And so it's ready to go for your signature.
There's no changes to this at all?
Not that I've been notified of.
Not this.
Unless you see one.
Not this committee. Lonnie, thanks. Not this committee, but can we switch committees that we're on right now? Is that possible?
Yes.
Because it's not on here, but what
It's not on here.
I'm backing off of Tasseltop, and Marshall's going to take my spot.
Yeah, normally the selectmen assign or accept their committee assignments on an annual basis, so
That's a
yes.
non-voting
Yeah,
position.
and we generally do that the first meeting in July or shortly
Okay.
thereafter, so.
Well, in case they have one now, I'll let Marshall. Boom. All right.
So
Moving
you want to
on.
wait for July, is that what we're doing?
Well,
Yeah.
it wasn't posted on the agenda, so
Yeah.
I suppose we could. It sort of fits under board and committee.
God, did you feel that slap that I just got from her? It wasn't on the agenda.
Kind of, sort of.
I don't think it's any big issue to
No, I
go
don't
another
think
month,
so.
right?
No.
So put it on the next one?
Boy, I really stirred up the pot on that one.
I'm sorry, I missed who made the motion to approve the boards and committees.
I did.
Thank you.
All right.
Are we still in discussion on this?
On the committees?
Committees?
No.
Okay.
Only on these committees, not the one we were just talking about,
On
because I
this
was throwing her
list.
off.
We're
Yes.
talking about this list.
We've actually,
No, that list is closed. now.
yeah, we've already been voting on it. Do you have a question that you want to put in public comment or selectman comment about it? I'm just like, wait a minute, how did I miss that?
I'm too new at this game to do that today.
Is there someone that should not be on the list?
There's an overlap that I'm not sure is correct.
Okay. Because occasionally at these meetings, I find out that someone moved that I wasn't aware of.
There's an
Do you
overlap.
want to go back and revisit it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I think
We move through these
I
things
think what's
pretty
going to,
quick.
I think what will happen, I'm pretty sure I know the one you're talking about, and there'll need to be a resignation, and so that will
Yes.
create a vacancy. So I think at the time this list was made, maybe
I
that
see
wasn't
that.
recognized. I don't know.
So at this point in time, we do not have a resignation.
Correct.
But you will have one.
Okay.
Which
I'm
is
not-
this?
Yes, no.
My thinking, the
I-
resignation will be off planning.
Not yet. Not yet. Not
Because
till she's
the
sworn.
impact is now
Oh, I
we
see
made
where you are.
we made a change on the budget finance membership. We reduced it from 9 to 7. And if there's a resignation on budget finance, then that change may very well come into effect.
Right.
So that's why I was questioning. I'm
The
not-
budget finance is not a resignation.
Fine.
It's from the planning board.
Fine.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Does that?
I'm
okay.
happy.
But you
now,
can't,
thank
you can't do both, so we're gonna have that
And I was
resignation.
just wondering which
And I think
road
this
we
may have
were
been,
going
this
down.
may have been produced.
She-
That was
She let us-
prior to.
Yeah, she
Prior
let us
to.
know that
Prior
it
to.
was, she's going to go to budget finance.
Okay.
Yes. All right, fee
Thank you.
schedule.
And this is the annual fee schedule, even though you just approved a version of it last month. There are a couple of changes that were requested for, I believe it was under dogs.
Barking dogs.
I asked for the dogs to be changed, and you guys all voted me down.
So what, are you gonna keep bringing it up?
Yeah. One of these times I figure if I catch you guys off guard. Oh, all right, I'm gonna bring this up because this was brought up to me. There's the Zoning Board of Appeals application. It's $75. But it's $600 to do the application and appeal it. Is that normal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because of advertising costs for the various public hearing and all the postings you have to do to abutters.
Okay. It just was brought up to you.
We've surveyed other towns on that and see what other folks do, and we tend to be on the mid to low end of what other towns do.
Okay.
And that doesn't always cover all of our costs.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good to know. All right.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the revised fee schedule.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, slow
Oh,
down,
nope,
slow
nope.
down, slow down. I'm trying to learn here.
No, that puts us in discussion.
Impound fees, are those just pass-through fees, or is that fees we
Sorry,
assess?
Marshall.
The
Sometimes I don't even say
impound
any
fee
discussion.
That I believe is what
Yeah, but
it
this
costs
is
So
to
they
simply
just-
have them impounded.
It passed.
pass-through
They
from
passed
the,
through.
from the shelter.
yes.
Very minimal.
That's what I
very
was asking.
minimal.
Yeah.
So how long
Go
does it take
ahead,
you to write
Teresa,
your name?
what do you-
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
These guys were so patient with me. Let me tell you, I'd be sitting there going, what?
Well,
Ambulance
Getting
fees,
less
and
and
there's a
less.
few
Yeah, I
on that
understand
end that is better than a pass-through, but for the most part,
I will select you.
always.
All right. Public comment. Kevin, did you? No?
I'm good.
You're good? Anybody else? No? Sue?
I'm not part of the public, I'm not a resident.
Okay. Selectman comment. Anybody?
I appreciate being a member of this board.
Yes,
I was
and
gonna say
I would
welcome,
like, and
Marshall.
I would like to
Thank you.
Appreciate
welcome
having
Thank you.
Marshall with open arms.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It is a big loss for the budget and a huge plus for the select.
It is.
And he'll continue to strive for greatness like he always has, and looking forward to him.
I see this is also another good board to be working together. I really do.
Thank you. Yeah.
My second comment would be, people, please watch for notices to vote and for public hearings regarding the RSU. And again, we're going to be putting a website up on the town of Raymond, RSU withdrawal 2. So any questions, please call me, email, anything like that. We're more than happy to answer any questions. Town manager's report.
And communications. Okay, confirmed dates for upcoming regular meetings. July 10th,
That's being moved to July 17th.
so that's the 17th. August 14th, that's still good. September 11th.
We're still going to have a regular meeting on the 17th too. We're still gonna-
Right.
That August 14th worked right in there. All right. Upcoming schedule?
Keep rolling.
Yep.
Reminder of upcoming holiday schedule, Wednesday, July 4th, Independence Day.
That's when you let it happen.
Let it happen, okay. So I guess as a general comment, I should tell you we're rolling into construction season. We've got a lot planned. We've been very busy already. Update on Nathan versus Beavers. We got the Valley Road paved the other day, so that's nice and smooth. That's the good news. The bad news, the Beavers are back.
Oh, what
So-
is it? Beavers 7 now and Town 0?
Well, we're going to work on that, but so the road's repaired, and
That's bad.
it's a great job on that for Nathan and the crew.
Can't
We're going to go to Vermont, I think, this week and get our trucks
Oh, good.
on
Great.
Thursday. There's going to be a convoy. You heard the song from the 70s, a convoy? It's going to be a convoy.
That's
It's going to be
exciting.
slow going, I think, with those babies from up near Burlington, so.
Yeah.
Especially
I think
with
so.
plows and everything on them, right? So you don't have
No,
to.
well, the gear's on them, but the plows and the wings are in the bed, so we'll have those in the
Oh.
back, but yeah, all the front end gear will be on it.
Yeah,
So
boy,
who's all going to do it?
Huh?
All the road guys?
Road guys, yeah.
Public works?
It'll be Nathan and Scott and Jason and probably Al drive the town Tahoe.
Once you drive.
It's kind of like the, if you like, sort of like the, although not exactly like the Burt Reynolds thing, but I'll be blocking for them or something along that line.
Oh.
Something along that line.
Somehow I can't see them running in the speed trap, but.
Yeah, these trucks probably go about 50 miles an hour, so it's gonna be a long ride.
It's gonna be a long
sign that
ride.
says escort.
Yeah.
You know, they do have to wear earmuffs and stuff while they're driving those, right?
Yeah, they are behemoths. They really are behemoths. But anyway, so it's exciting though, and just want to let you know that.
Cool. All right, there is no treasurer's warrant. That'll come on next month. All right, we are going to go into executive session. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to go into executive session, town manager's annual performance review pursuant to MRSA 1 subsection 405 6A.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Hi, motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Cool.